What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Avengers Tower. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Episode 5. It's on the way. It's almost here. And for me, there's a lot of pressure on this episode. Look, man, I don't think it's a secret. I don't think it'll be a surprise to many of you that Kenobi so far has not been it for me. Despite loving a lot of different things that are in the show and a lot of the singular moments in the show being really cool and hitting for me, the show overall has felt wildly uneven, and I'm currently sitting here just pretty dissatisfied as a Star Wars fan. The show's really going to have to bring it in its final 2 episodes for me to walk away from Kenobi feeling like it was an overall good experience and enriched my feelings as a Star Wars fan. Otherwise, I'm going to look back at it as very similar to the Book of Boba Fett. You know, again, having some cool stuff in it, but overall not being it. And honestly, look, let's just save a lot of the talk for if it goes the bad way for after the show comes out. For now, let's focus on the possibility of the positive. And I've got good news on that front because there's plenty of stuff that was rumored to be in the show and a lot of indications out there by things that people are saying, like Ewan McGregor, that the show's final 2 episodes will be absolutely nuts. First of all, there is said to be a second fight between Vader and Kenobi. And in episode 4, we did see Kenobi starting to get his mojo back a little bit, actually using the saber to deflect a lot of different bolts and take down stormtroopers. And we didn't get the training montage that I wanted to see, but it is very possible that something like that is still on the way, as we think that Kenobi will now be going to Jabiim with the Game of Thrones lady and Leia in tow. Not Wade, though, because he got that speaking line earlier in episode 4 so that we would all miss him tragically after Reva blew him up. Pour one out for Wade. Perhaps on Jabiim, Kenobi, now being further connected to the Force, will actually be able to have a conversation with Qui-Gon Jinn or have some communication with Qui-Gon. It's even possible that Kenobi will sense that there's still more danger and that he does have to get back into fighting shape. And so perhaps with some other Jedi that are on Jabiim or just by himself, we will see him become more adept in the Force, even train a little bit with the lightsaber. It would really be great for the show if Kenobi was furthering his development as a character, getting closer to the old man Alec Guinness that we saw in A New Hope and that we also saw take down Darth Maul in the middle of the Tatooine desert with a single strike. That dude is completely put together and a total badass, and the Kenobi that we currently have is perhaps on the way there, but he's definitely a long way from it. So development towards that would be really good. There have also been rumors of a Clone Wars flashback in the show, and we're seriously lacking on Hayden Christensen so far with 4 episodes done of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and I think a lot of Star Wars fans are just rabid for a flashback, something with Anakin as Hayden younger in the show would be great. So perhaps the flashback will be in episode 5 or in episode 6, but I definitely think getting more Hayden and having a Clone Wars flashback of some kind would be really freaking awesome. And I've been hoping for more Jedi popping up since episode 1 of Kenobi. We technically did get a ton of Jedi in episode 4. The problem was they were all encased in ember like the mosquitoes from Jurassic Park. And that's not exactly what I wanted. I wanted, like, living Jedi, right? Like, I wanted actual Quinlan Vos perhaps being on Jabiim, and maybe he still is, even though some people think you see him in episode 4 encased in ember, and that would absolutely suck. But there's a strong possibility here that this Force-sensitive underground railroad thing that leads to Jabiim will have a ton of different Jedi over there, and so there's room for cameos or just other cool Force-using beings, and that's something I've been very anxious to see in Kenobi, and I'd love to see it moving into episode 5. And now I actually want to read something that the writer said about the tomb and the different Jedi that we see in episode 4 at the bottom of that Inquisitor fortress, and how that's going to play a big role in Kenobi's motivations moving forward. So this is Joby Harold, the show's head writer and executive producer. He says Obi-Wan's been in his cave and he knows what's been happening, but he hasn't been confronted with it and the reality of it and how it's evolved. In that cave, you are somewhat cut off. Leia calls him to action, but through the course of his journey, he has to confront what has happened to the galaxy and also what's happened to the Jedi. It stops being theoretical and philosophical and starts being right in his face to the point where it's a couple of feet away, and he's faced with this harsh terror. It was about finding those places along the way where he was confronted by the reality of the world now. Harold points to moments in episode 2 where Obi-Wan comes across the panhandling soldier, Tamara Morrison, who was callously tossed aside by the Empire once he outlived his Clone Wars usefulness. That and the tomb realization 2 episodes later are moments where you step outside the narrative and the show, and you have Obi-Wan get to reflect upon the bigger universe and the timeline because it's such a terrific time. We needed to find something that could exist in the bowels of that fortress and could be dynamic enough that it would really impact him in that way was tricky, but also important. And then finding this sort of butterfly display of these Jedi kept in perpetuity and forever enshrined in this horrific way, it felt like a really important moment within the bigger journey. Now, the writer also goes on to talk about the similarities between the events of the Jedi Fallen Order video game where you go to the same fortress, and he admits that the similarities between these two is not a coincidence and talks about how the design team did look to the game for inspiration with regards to the actual fortress and the opportunities that it provided. He said, I know that was a massive benefit to them and an exciting opportunity to look to that and help weave everything together within bigger canon. It's a very cool facility and it's a kind of world that we haven't seen before. It's intimidating and imposing in its own way, and it's partly sort of just thinking, what's the worst place you could ask Obi-Wan to have to go? There's few places that would be more horrific to have to contend with. Okay, so I actually really love the idea of seeing all these suspended Jedi playing a big role in bringing Kenobi sort of back to reality, and especially when he sees the Force-sensitive people on Jabiim, it's very possible that seeing the horrors of those other Jedi in prison and juxtaposing that against the actual living Jedi and Force-sensitives that are here, he will begin to realize that he must step up to the plate, become stronger, and be more connected with the actual comings and goings of the galaxy. I'm all for that. I think it's awesome. I also love the possibility and the idea that that event and the events on Jabiim could perhaps tie into Cal Kestis and tie into the Jedi Survivor game and some other fun stuff like that, because it's Star Wars and we love all that fun, nerdy stuff. So there's still plenty of fun stuff that could be happening in Episode 5 and in Episode 6. As far as Episode 5 specifically, I do imagine a lot of this Jabiim stuff to be happening. I think we'll get the flashback. I think it's very likely you'll see Kenobi further his training or prowess to get to this powerful place, and I think the Vader fight will probably be saved for Episode 6. That'll be sort of the big climactic event of that last episode. And again, I'm just really hoping this is a very tightly done episode. I hope it's a lengthy episode, and I hope that after this episode, a lot of people that are really on the fence or have been disappointed with Kenobi will be like, yo, that was really, really cool, and let's get hyped up for Episode 6. That's what I would love to happen. That's what I'm hoping will happen. I'm sure you've got some thoughts about Kenobi Episode 5. Let me know those thoughts in the comment section below.